Okay, so you're about to talk about a procession in time where you said that you started out at seeing the dukkha and then looking for the escape of that dukkha in sensual pleasure.
Yes. So, yeah, so this would be about maybe two, 2.5 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
would see the dukkha and then I'd feel bad. So I would try to look for sensual pleasures like food, TV, that kind of stuff, and just to feel good. But I think it was more like escaping. And then after a while, I started realizing that even these sensual pleasures won't really, well, they're not doing what I want them to do when I'm trying to look at them. So
Mm-hmm.
then that used to give me, that was a dukkha in itself, because then it was like, well, if I can't do these things to feel better and I feel bad, then like, what do I do? So that was like a different kind of existential crisis.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Well,
and
let's pick that up in a moment in under the rubric of, well, what do we do now? But let's go back and look at it in the sense that you're looking for pleasure in food, and that's common,
yeah,
and that people then will look for more pleasure in food, and then it becomes expensive and gourmet, and it goes on and on and on because they still have the delusion that more is better, and that pleasure comes from the senses,
yeah,
food, entertainment, and whatnot like that. Now we can think of entertainment as different than escapism, because that's exactly what you're talking about here. Is I feel bad, therefore I'm going to watch a movie so that I don't have to think about how bad I feel. I can escape into the movie.
yeah,
All right. We can also think of entertainment as merely time structuring. How are you going to entertain yourself today?
yeah,
Okay. And that sometimes entertainment is a movie. I find generally movies are less and less entertaining, but occasionally documentaries are quite entertaining.
mm, yeah,
Okay, so in that regard, looking at it from both of the unwholesome or the escapism from our bad feelings versus the wholesome quality of enjoying the moment.
mm,
But you're also now back to the point, because you're using this as in a series of examples of what people do in life,
yeah,
that they do recognize suffering just a little bit, but then they see the gratification or the escape from that dukkha that they feel inside by going into the sensual world.
yeah,
And so now you've come to the point of saying, wait a minute, that sensual world is problematic also.
yep,
That there is dukkhas, there are dangers there. And
yeah.
so, what is the escape of that? Because what I used to have as an escape from my bad feelings wind up just not doing the job.
Well, that's what I kind of became okay with on this retreat that I just did. Um, it was like there was the dukkha and there was the thought of nothing will really satisfy it. Um, but then there was also the experience that these are just thoughts and there is selfing attached to these thoughts as they come and go.
Uh
And
huh.
it's like there is they're not like it's not a law of nature that the selfing is combined with them. but the selfing is attached on. I actually saw it being attached on, I think. Like the phenomena would happen, and then the self would attach onto the phenomena. And because of that, it suddenly became sort of okay to just sit there with the dukkha, and then that kind of just made it all okay. I don't know.
All right. Yes. Um, Back to what we were talking about right at the very beginning of our conversation is that quality of meditation where people kind of sit there and inspect the dukkha,
Yeah.
noting what's going on in the mind. They call that mindfulness. And in fact, in a way, that is actually sati without much investigation at all.
Mm-hmm.
That if you take on the more of the aspects of the Buddha, we recognize we need to investigate every one of those thoughts to decide whether it's going to be wholesome and worthwhile having or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally we don't make that investigation, but we have, kind of the underlying dissatisfaction or dukkha that's there, and we're kind of okay with it. And I'm offering you something a little bit better than that, a new
Mm.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, and that new opportunity is that if if you're having unwholesome thoughts and you're having that underlying dukkha that's there, that there is a kind of connection between them. And that if you intentionally start to guard the thoughts so that you're making sure that these are only wholesome thoughts, then we can work with those directly. Now, here's a way of thinking about it. This comes from psychology, Eric Berne and Freud. And I think that I've mentioned this to you before in the sense of the critical parent, the parent ego state that goes around telling us what to do. This needs to be done, that needs to be done, or life should be like that, or it ought to be this way, and to many, many different kinds of topics that are kind of okay thoughts, but they're not uplifting, okay, because they're coming out of the critical parent that wants to make things wonderful, okay. There's the other side of that, and that is Ari Byrne talks about the nurturing parent, to nurture yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to let yourself be really, really satisfied. In other words, we begin to take the work out of meditation and it becomes playful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It becomes playful. Now, let's go back to the qualities of unwholesome versus wholesome thoughts because we've been down this territory before. And I
Mm.
find it quite amusing here that um, that you're beginning to see that dukkha that's underlying there, but you haven't seen it well enough to know that, wait a minute, that's the problem. That I'm just inherently kind of dissatisfied and I let the mind go off into those states.
Yeah, it stopped being a problem. Um, it just it just didn't matter. I don't know. It was like there was just so much awareness of
Okay.
everything that
Yes.
that none of those things really mattered.
Right. Okay.
And then
If
so
they
the
didn't
mind just
matter
stopped.
but they were there,
Yeah.
if they didn't matter, but they were moving from one position to the next to the next, one thought after another. The mind was kind of busy, but that was okay because you've been busy before. And so you allow the mind to be busy with these thoughts.
Yeah, it just felt like they just weren't me. So it was just
Okay? They
Yeah.
aren't you, and that's okay that they're not you. In fact, congratulations. We know they're not you, and you're seeing they're not you, but there's no reason for the mind to be in the habit of jumping around from one thought to the next. That's the restless mind. And that you haven't seen
Yeah.
that you're harming yourself yet by doing that. And yet you do recognize that there is an underlying dukkha or dissatisfaction that's there, and you're trying to say, and that's okay too. And I'm saying, yeah, it's okay. Let's grab hold of it while it's okay and throw it out while it's okay.
It felt like when it became okay, it felt like throwing it out was kind of causing more problems. That's kind of why I stopped doing it. Come to think of it, it just felt like throwing it out was just it was different to before.
Okay, let's put it this way. Maybe the the strong word that I use of throwing it out is for the very beginner. And so let's soften our language just a little bit in the sense of in this mind moment, you can only have one thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next mind moment, you have another thought. And the next mind moment, you have another thought. And they just go from bang to bang to bang to bang. And in reference to that, it's the monkey mind that's jumping around from tree to tree. It's the monkey mind just
Yeah.
jumping around. And you're kind of saying, wow, I've come to the point that that's okay.
Yeah. There, that doesn't really sound right. Um, yeah, it just feels so different to how it was before.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
progress.
They all caused so many problems before, but now they
What do
didn't
you mean?
really.
What's the? I'm sorry, I misunderstood. What's causing the problem?
As in the racing mind, it would be so it would just give me a lot of grief before, but yeah, it kind of just didn't. I was just I was just with the body
Okay,
and stuff.
so you've taken about 80% of the dukkha out of it, but there is still that part that's left.
Yeah.
Now, what I had thought I had heard you say was um, taking it out of the mind or pushing it out was a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Where in
because when
fact,
it
no,
stopped mattering.
but it's not because this is a new mind moment, and you can put in this new mind moment what you want to put into it.
Yeah.
As opposed to letting the old habit pattern just pull up random thoughts. Most of them are random thoughts about the past or the future.
Yeah, they were pretty they were quite like junk thoughts. It was basically all just junk thoughts.
Junk thoughts. I've heard that word before too.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was just the mind being yeah, I think like it was just the mind just craving like sensual pleasures so much because I removed sensual pleasures while doing the retreat. It was just
Except that you made them mental.
yeah. Yeah, so the mind just turned them into mental pleasures, which I noticed as well, actually. I noticed, and so then I thought, okay, well, the mind is doing this to be happy, so why don't I just stop this and be happy? And then like those times, every time I remember to do that, I'd just go into jhana. But when I didn't do that, you know, when I was just like
All
tired and
right. So now we know. Yes. Yes, exactly. All right.
yeah,
So you know it. You
yeah, I
know
mean
that
it happened.
when you start having wholesome thoughts, that it sequences into bringing your mind into a very pleasant state.
Yeah, I mean that did happen. That did happen pretty often. It was like a mix of everything happened, you know. Like the jhanas happened, the lows happened, the everything. It just happened. Yeah.
Okay, well let's then continue on the times when you're actually doing the full-on correct practice,
Yeah.
as opposed to that point when you're doing meditation.
So, oh, that's another thing as well, actually. It felt like when it was, when the correct stuff happened, it felt like, it just felt like the causes and conditions of reality made them happen as opposed to me, which is also why I just started running through the motions, because I just thought, all right, well, just let it do its thing. Um, does that make sense?
It certainly does, but what you did about it doesn't. Instead of getting that into that state of really enjoying that you've got some control over things and that there is no self doing it, there's no aggregate of the self in there. It's like a well-oiled humming machine that's producing, and there's no self to it. It's just the operation of the machine.
Yeah,
It's got
that's
all the constituent components functioning correctly.
that's what. Yeah, there was yeah, that's the thing, because I know in the sutras, it talks about free will, but I
No,
can't
it
help but
doesn't. Not a chance.
I'm sure I've seen free will in the sutras, that there is
You
free
might
will.
have seen someone translate some Pali into the word free will, and he may or may not know what he's talking about, but generally, free will is not a concept in the Buddhism.
Okay, that's
Free
good
will is a
because
Christian concept, and it
I,
has to do with predestination versus do we have choices in our lives.
well, that's the thing. That's what had me so confused as well, because I thought that the sutras talked about free will, but I just wasn't experiencing any free will. Everything was just happening all on its own. And I was just like, am I doing something wrong? Because I read that there's free will, but all I just see is just everything happening on its own. I mean, even like
Well,
me
let's
moving.
let's go with the quality of a malfunctioning machine. Let us say that it's supposed to put out candy and it winds up putting out a mess instead. And let's not go any further than that. Okay.
All right.
All right. And this machine thinks that it exists and its job is to make candy,
Yeah.
but it can't do it. And so it's a victim of its own misbehavior.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay,
was
so
just all
now you
on
come
my own.
in and you say, all right, we're going to make a repair to the machine.
Yeah.
And so you repair the machine, and now it's putting out the correct product, but it's still just a machine. It's got no self in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought I was a robot.
All right. But that just because now that we recognize that there is no self in this machine, that it produces the correct product rather than making a mess, you're saying, well, wait a minute, I liked it better when it was sometimes would make a mess. And so you let it
Oh,
go
is that
back
what's going
into
on?
being broken state.
Oh, maybe.
Okay. To where the reality is that whether the machine is broken in the sense that it's got unwholesome thoughts,
Mm.
or whether the machine is humming along correctly, which means now it's producing candy rather
Mm.
than a mess. So we're going to just let it continue humming along, making a good candy.
Yeah.
But that means that we have to take the time for the maintenance of the machine because every machine will break if you don't keep it up.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what practice then is really all about, is keeping the machine in good condition. Now, over time, what we can say is that we recognize by getting to know this machine and its various functions and parts that the whole machine works pretty well, but this part over here could be greatly improved.
Mm,
Okay, like body, and greatly improved like feelings, and greatly improved like the state of mind that we're in. Those are the kind of things that could be improved in this machine so that it doesn't put out a mess. So, if we have the idea then that it's really okay for this machine to be in what was we would call now tip top shape, but that we can still tinker with it.
yeah, it's just I don't get it because, like, when I'm in jhana, or when I'm free from hindrances, like I feel so good, right?
Okay.
And when the mind is still, it feels so good. But
And we have thoughts, wow, this feels good.
yeah. But then when it's not happening, it's just like the it's like the burning desire that was always motivating me to feel so good all the time is just not there anymore because now everything just feels okay.
Right. Well, isn't that interesting that that has to do basically with the way that we have wanted things all of our life, is that we want things that we don't have.
Yeah.
Once we have it, then it's not so important anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that as well actually, with all material things as
That
well.
even enlightenment, haha, becomes ordinary. I gotten used to it. Is ho hum. Been there, done that.
Yeah, I mean, that actually seemed quite ordinary to me. It just seemed like it's like I was chasing a word, like a thing, a concept, but you can't because that kind of limits what it is. You can't like turn it into a thing. So it's like everything just is what it is, but once you're chasing enlightenment, then you're kind of chasing that carrot on a stick.
Precisely. Once you thingify it,
Yeah.
now it's a carrot to chase.
So I've just every time I thingify it, I just catch it. As in, it automatically catches itself thingifying and it just stops doing it. And then things just expand again.
Hmm.
Whereas when I'm thingifying it, it's like I'm contracted around a thing and that becomes the whole world. And that's not just with enlightenment, it's with anything, like food or anything.
Right. So now we already have figured out, though, that uh, that approach is really not satisfying, that it's
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah,
And it's also time oriented,
yeah, because I want
as
it later.
opposed to, yeah, because I
Or,
want
I
it.
mean, I'll get it later
I'll
or
get it
something.
later.
Yeah,
Right. I got to do this now so that I can get that later.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
changing that frame of reference then into, and I'll use it this way, instant gratification.
Yeah,
It's the kind of gratification that you would get that if you were walking in the hot sun and you just walked under a shade tree.
yeah,
Immediate gratification. Okay. The kind of gratification that under that shade tree there is a pump, and you haven't had a drink for a long
hmm,
time, and so you pump that up and you get that beaker of water, and it's gratifying. It really is. And so it's immediate. This is the kind of way that we want to look at it, because in this state of the first jhana that we're discussing, basically we need to practice getting into it really easy,
mm,
which means that we want to do it over and over again, which means that we have to be able to come out of that sun thirsty,
mm,
into the shade tree and get a drink.
Yeah.
Okay, and here you are after you get the drink and all cooled off with the shade and everything. Now you can say, "Hot dog, I can go walk in the sun and get hot again, and it's okay."
I mean, I feel like even jhana is like, even the desire for jhana is just it's thingifying it again, and it's that kind of made me stop wanting it so much. I mean, it still feels really good when it happens on its own, but
It doesn't happen on its own. Never happens on its own.
I mean,
You have to gather the factors together.
yeah, I mean, okay, I did that, but that was also happening on its own because it wasn't me who was doing it. Um,
Okay.
like I don't know, it's just so I I can't really explain it, but I don't know, it just doesn't matter that there's no jhana sometimes, most of the time, but when it does, it's cool, it's great, it's fun.
Okay. All right. Well, let us say then, instead of having the goal as jhana, which is the result, sometimes quite immediately so, of merely having wholesome thoughts,
Yeah,
let's recognize that wholesome thoughts are better than having unwholesome thoughts,
that's true.
and that
They're a
you
lot
still
better.
have to take the right effort to investigate, to be on guard.
Yeah,
Now, normally what happens is that we do flitter from topic to topic, but many
yep,
times we'll get stuck on a topic. An example of that would be email.
yeah,
You got to write an email to a lawyer, but we're not at the computer now, but we just spin and work and work and work. And we say,
preparing.
wait a minute, I don't have to think about that email right now. I can
Yep,
throw that email out. I can be happy right now.
yeah.
And then I begin to have thoughts of the here now, and off into jhana we go. But we have to recognize that point of I don't have to think about that email right now because it's a hindrance.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like right now, I'm
It's
in
sort of
jhana.
like just stepping out of its way. It's really easy to do because you do have, once you thinking about it, or right way to say it, once sati, once you wake up and do a bit of investigation, you've got full control over the thoughts that you have. In fact, you already are controlling your thoughts because now your thoughts are of investigating what I just was thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like
And
I'm
so it's
experiencing it
really
now.
easy to change. It's really easy to change the content of the mind.
Hmm.
And then you can say to yourself, really, actually, it's better to be free from dukkha than it is to have that residual part that I'm okay with and have to put up with.
Yeah.
Now, there is something about that, which I mentioned before, but let's go over it again from a different perspective. And
Mhm.
that is right now, or today, or last week, that level of dukkha was okay. But over time, when we really start taking a good look at it, investigating it closely, we can see that too is dangerous.
Mm.
That too has its problems.
Yeah, it's making sense right now. Yeah.
that that by keeping looking at it, we're going to see what dukkha is there. And so we say, okay, I can be free from that right now, too.
Mm.
And so that's how we want to apply the sati, always with the investigation. Is this wholesome or not? Because if it's not wholesome, we can change it easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's the hindrance of sloth and torpor, I guess, because it's making me lazy, I guess.
that happens. Actually, we having the mind restless like that will make it tired. Certainly, all of the
Yeah.
hindrances are interrelated.
Yeah, it was getting tired. Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about the world is tiresome.
Yeah. That's true.
Makes me tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I won't have sick and tired thoughts anymore. I'll have happy, joyful thoughts.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. We don't have to be sick and tired and putting up with it.
Yeah.
But you can put up with it and say, well, I can handle that right now. But when you say, I can handle that right now, you just already changed it. I can handle it is the winner's attitude. So you
Mm.
could pop right out of that with wholesome thought. That's a wholesome thought. I can handle this. I don't have to even think about that stuff.
Mm.
That way I can be on guard for thoughts about the past. You'd be surprised at how much you're dissatisfied with your own past.
Yeah, I mean,
No, you
I
would. No, you wouldn't. I think you really do know how dissatisfied you are with your own past.
oh yeah. But now it's like any thoughts of the past that come up, it's like, all right, well, these are just their own things that just come up from the habitual brain machine or whatever, or from the nature of reality. They
Okay,
just come
but
up
now
and
you can also begin to see, yeah, but that's the mess that the candy machine is making when it's broken.
yeah, yeah, that's definitely true.
It's
Yeah, I think I
just
just need to
junk.
look at the dukkha. I need to find the dukkha in it a lot more. Um,
Well, just look at it enough to see, yeah, that stuff is yucky. And then you go fix that
oh,
machine.
it is. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to see the yuckiness in it. Have to see the danger. Have to see the stinky. And those, I mean,
Yeah.
once we see that those thoughts are stinky thoughts, then we can take them out easily.
Something that just came to mind is emptiness a teaching of the Buddha? Um, in a different sense from no self, as in emptiness, as in everything is just empty. Um,
Well, if
because I
everything
saw
is
everything as empty
empty,
as well,
then what is it empty of?
like empty of like an intrinsic essence, like like
You mean
it's like
like
there was no
empty of
solidity,
meaning,
just empty of solidity.
empty of importance,
Yeah, empty of importance. Yeah, empty of
empty
meaning.
of essence,
Yeah,
empty of essence?
yeah, like everything was just empty of essence, like
How about
seeing.
empty of meaning?
Sorry.
Empty of meaning.
Yeah, I mean, it did. Everything did feel empty of meaning. I mean, it still kind of does.
Aren't we really getting round to defining empty of self?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's like seeing the external is more empty than how empty I see the self currently, if that makes sense.
I actually had a long discussion with a good friend in the Dhamma. His name is Tun. He lives over on Watsuan Mook.
You told me about him,
And,
your first student, I think.
and that the question at hand was in sunyata, in emptiness, is the word meaning there? The answer is that it's not in the suttas, but that doesn't that that doesn't have the causality or the meaning that it doesn't belong, but rather that when you understand what emptiness is, encompassing, then meaning would be one of them. For instance, if it's empty of importance, if it's empty of importance, then it's empty of meaning because meaning
Mm-hmm.
gives it the importance. If it doesn't mean anything, it couldn't possibly be important.
I there was that aspect of it, but there was also the aspect of, for example, if I touch this pen, I can feel the solidity
Hmm.
of it.
Yes.
But the solidity of it, these are all sensations, and these sensations, they themselves are they're discrete, right? It's not a continuous thing, and these sensations are kind of limited.
According to your consciousness, moving back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, and that kind of when I was walking, it was like I could choose to feel like I wasn't walking. Um, I could I could choose to, in my mind, I could just think that I was floating and things would feel a bit lighter, or like the solidity of the floor wouldn't feel so solid. Um, Stuff like that. So there was like that aspect of it alongside the lack of meaning of things. It was like they came together.
Okay, maybe we could say it this way. Everything we perceive as hard with hard boundaries, to where in fact everything is actually gushy.
Yeah, yeah. That was like my body boundary as well. It was like that.
Hmm. Like example on the arm, where does the arm end and where does the skin? I mean the air begin? The
Yeah,
answer to that is, oh wow, is it complicated? Right
yeah,
down to the molecular level,
yeah.
because in fact the body sweats and discharges all kinds of things through the skin.
Even the skin flakes off.
Right. Okay. So where is our boundaries? The answer is it's gushy,
Yeah,
and that's part of the practice of anapanasati. When we really get to understand and know the body, we find out that the boundaries are gushy. They're not solid.
kind of feels like that still. Yeah,
In that way, because the boundaries are gushy, that means then that everything is in a spectrum as opposed to black and white.
yeah, yeah. It did feel like that.
Hmm.
Does feel like that.
And so we don't really know where I end and where the
Yeah,
surroundings begin.
where there is where it's me and where it's not me, and so maybe not. Just don't think
Right.
about me and not me.
So, in that way, we could say that it depends upon the way that language is used, but
Yeah,
that it would be a very, very true statement to say, behold, the kingdom of God is at hand.
yeah,
Because it's here, it's all around us. We're in it. Behold, here it is.
yeah. Like I would go for a walk, and literally everything outside, I could, I could like make it me, or I could just make it, or I could make. I couldn't really make me it, but I could just drop it being me or me being it altogether, and just experience everything as just one or not one.
This is what we're getting at exactly. When those boundaries get gushy, then we're just part of the environment, or we are the environment,
Yeah. Oh, there was one time
within and
that happened.
without.
There was a lot of love temporarily. It was like, it was just so much love. I think Wednesday or Thursday that happened. Um,
That means your heart felt gushy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It did. It's,
Yeah,
it
the deep
lasts very
in
long
our
though.
heart melts. And,
But
yeah, and we feel really gushy. So while you have those experiences available to you,
yeah,
you're also at the other side of the coin saying, well, it's okay if I let those random thoughts just run through the mind. There's dukkha there, but I can
yeah,
handle it. Okay. And now we're saying, wait a minute, that's like a scab. Let's tear that scab off and check out what's underneath there. That we do
yeah,
not have to allow these unwholesome thoughts in. And if we keep the wholesome thoughts, we can begin to live more of our life in that gushy state.
yeah. It's just all mindfulness. Just keep at it.
Yes. Haven't I said that before many times?
Oh
Sati.
yeah,
Develop the sati. To remember to look, to
yeah,
remember to check it out, to remember to check, is this wholesome or not? And if it's wholesome, zippity doo dah.
yeah,
And if it's not, aha, I see you, Mara. Ow.
yeah,
And by saying, aha, I see you, Mara, it's already gone. Those unwholesome thoughts are gone. I've already elevated the mind. Aha, I see you, Mara, is actually gladdening the mind right there,
yeah.
immediately. Instant gratification. Agnes is calling.
Mm.
I asked her to wait for our call to be over, but
Well, you've given me a lot of stuff to think about.
all right. Well, if you don't mind, I'll let her in on the call.
Yep. Well, maybe I should probably get ready for work actually. Um, need to
All
catch up
right. Well,
on emails
you
and
can
stuff.
linger for a minute, and I'll let her on.
All right. Yeah, I can stay for a few minutes.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Agnes.
Agnes.
Hi.
Good to see you
Good.
Good to see you
after
too.
so long.
Yeah, you two know each other. In
Yeah.
fact, we were just doing a deep dive in exactly what the three of us talked about before, which is wholesome thoughts.
Yep.
Okay.
And it is, in fact, what it's all about, is to have wholesome thoughts. But to have wholesome thoughts, look at all the stuff we've got to put together. We've got to remember to have wholesome thoughts. We've
Yeah.
got to investigate these thoughts to check to see if they're wholesome or not. And then we have to take the right effort to throw those unwholesome thoughts out and have wholesome thoughts.
Just a moment. Oh,
I think she covered her camera.
Ah, that's what's going on.
yes, I did.
Ah, a quick
Ah,
change artist.
what?
A quick change artist.
I had an alarm going on there, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, Shaitan had done a one man retreat for a few days, and he was having both really excellent experiences and also some
Not so excellent.
right, some mixture. And so that's what we've been talking about. Um, and so, Chatan, if we're kind of finished here, we can
Yep.
finish this conversation and turn the video recorder off.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll see you later.
See you, Dhammarato. See you, Agnes.